Hey guys, this is John, and welcome to my digital story. It is my hope that by viewing my video, you will understand who I am, where I come from, why I'm pursuing a master's in education at UTSA, and what I plan to do with it when I graduate. I was born in Syracuse, New York, where my father worked in a factory for General Electric making televisions. When I was 18 months old, my father was killed in an accident at the plant, leaving my mother widowed with four children. Our family moved to a small factory town in central Pennsylvania where my father's parents lived. My education there was in a traditional classroom setting where I could ask questions, took notes on what the teacher lectured on, and then repeated on exams what I had been taught. This method of learning seemed quite natural to me. From an early age, I aspired to do more with my life than work in the local factories manufacturing parts for automobiles. Following high school, I started classes at a local college but struggled to find my calling in any particular field. Supporting myself and paying for my education when at the age of 22 I made the decision to go into the military service. I figured I could take classes while utilizing the military educational benefits to avoid taking on any more educational debt. I was stationed in Germany on my first tour of duty and received orders to San Antonio 2 years later. After completing my initial 4 years in the Air Force, I separated and finished my Bachelor of Arts at UTSA in Political Science in 1991. Following completion of my bachelor's degree, I earned a Master's of Business Administration. Re entered the Air Force with a commission in 1993, and in total, I spent 28 years in the service. Toward the end of my career, I began to experience health problems, possibly due to the environment which I had grown up in, as pollution control was not a primary focus in the 1960s and 70s. Equally so, the harsh environments of deployments played a factor as well. In September of 2012, my sister, who was closest in age to me, died of cancer just after her 50th birthday. She was a fourth grade science teacher in Virginia and loved her career choice. Shortly after losing my sister, I lost my mother to cancer as well during the Christmas season of 2013. I had planned on spending a couple of months with my sisters when I retired from the Air Force, catching up on our lives and learning about her science teaching and what her life as a teacher was like. I would never get that chance. In the summer of 2014, I was forced to retire from the Air Force due to medical disqualification. While many people dream of retiring early at the age of 50 and spending the rest of their lives traveling or doing whatever they please, it actually leaves one with a lot of questions on what one can do to live a meaningful life now that I'm financially secure. I returned to San Antonio in the spring of last year and rekindled friendships with my old fraternity brothers from UTSA and with friends and family who live here. I've also met a lovely woman educated as a teacher in the Philippines, and we have had many discussions about raising children, concerns on what is happening in our world, and our desire to leave the world a better place for future generations. My fiancee Jinky is the guardian of her two nieces, ages 7 and 10, and is a wonderful mother to them. The children and I have become close, and after dating Jinky for about a year and a half, I've decided that I want to make a family with them. In spite of the struggles I've battled with my health throughout this semester, I'm committed to both completing all my coursework successfully and to the adoption of these two lovely girls, who are everything I could ever want in a daughter. They are both A students, they love to sing and draw, and they are very loving. My motivation for pursuing a Master of Arts in Education with emphasis on curriculum and instruction is that my program of choice is combined with a teacher certification in math and science for grades 4 through 8. It is my goal to honor my sister's life by becoming a science teacher, and even though I will only be a substitute teacher due to disability limitations, it will allow me to become involved in the school system my daughters will attend and to become more involved in our local community. The main purpose of this degree program for me is to use it as a path to becoming the best father I can be and to learn about what schools are like these days, as it has been over 30 years since I attended K through 12. The things that concerns me most for the future of my girls is the climate change the earth is undergoing and the campaign of denial and disinformation that is being fed to the American people that climate change isn't occurring and that any changes that are occurring aren't being caused by human activity. The scientific evidence to the contrary is undeniable and overwhelming, but unethical business practices in the pursuit of wealth over the welfare of the human race and other species on this planet continue to drive the denial that this is occurring. My personal pedagogy is social reconstructionist with the belief that the church, the state, and the educational system should all be separate, with the latter teaching how to think for oneself and the difference between facts and beliefs. The socio-political nature of education consists of competing interests in who decides what is taught in the classroom and what information is the most valuable to pass on to the next generation. In my field of science, there has for many years been those who believe that teaching the history of life based on scientific fact, often referred to as Darwinism, is wrong and an affront to their belief systems. They advocate either for the teaching of creationism or the teaching of both. Every major religion has its own story of how the universe and life as we know it was created, but these are belief systems which aren't fact based. In the Judeo Christian faith I was raised in, Catholicism, even the church in recent years has acknowledged that the teachings are theology rather than fact based. For example, the story of Noah's Ark actually predates the writing of the Old Testament, and it is genetically impossible to repopulate a species with only one male and one female remaining from that species. Yet there are those who want this taught rather than the theory of evolution in our science classroom. However, it seems rational to me to keep belief systems separate from teaching scientific fact on the world and how the universe, for that matter, operates and how everything is interconnected. One of the things I found most interesting in this class is the socio-political nature of education and how curriculum differs across the classes. In the Jean Onion article, Social Class and the Hidden Curriculum of Work, she explains how lower socioeconomic class students are trained to follow instructions and not question what they are told, but to simply repeat it on the exam. Whereas high socioeconomic students are taught to analyze, look at the big picture, and compose their own ideas via their freedom of thought. Similarly, Paulo Freire argues in his Pedagogy of the Oppressed that education is about developing students' critical consciousness in order for them to take and understand the social and political contradictions and injustices of the work and to take action against them. The Gloria Ladsam's Billings article on education debt enlightened me about the achievement gap and how inadequate funding of school districts in minority areas creates a divide between those schools and the predominantly white school districts. She further argues a debt is owed to minorities due to this historic underfunding to correct past wrongs and to level the playing field so everyone can compete on the same terms. In terms of social justice, our goal as educators is to provide high quality education to all learners. Social justice demands learners have the same access as all other learners and educators. We must advocate for this equity. I've learned I can advocate for educational change through research, critical reflection and dialogue, civic responsibility, and transformative leadership. I've also come to understand privilege is where historically access to education is denied to one group in order to maintain or increase education resources for another group. Often this occurs based on ethnicity or race, language, disability, sexual identity, or gender. Advocating for social justice requires us to examine privileges that we have been afforded or denied. In key aspects of foundational theories in interdisciplinary learning and teaching, I learned the importance of learning theories in education is that they provide consistent learning and teaching approaches and strategies which guide how we teach, motivate, and assess, as well as predict learning and performance outcomes. Knowledge of learning theory is useful as it guides how we can help our students gain knowledge. The term interdisciplinary implies the crossing of discipline boundaries to explain occurring phenomenon, to solve problems, and to deal with real life issues by keeping an open mind. This process is also known as instructional design. Interdisciplinary learning focuses on the act of constructing new meaning or making sense of new information by drawing on diverse experiences and or prior knowledge that often stems from diverse sources. The goal of interdisciplinary learning and teaching is integration of knowledge to improve outcomes. During this course, we studied the works of B.F. Skinner, who was known for radical behaviorism and who studied operant conditioning. We also studied Jean Piaget's cognitivism, in which he argued that learners have stages of cognitive development, that learning was an adaptation or a simulation, and that he explored how cognition differs amongst age groups. We were introduced to Lev Vygotsky's socio-cultural learning theory and the zone of proximal development. Other learning theories covered included situation learning, where learning occurs when students are actively engaged with one another, sharing thoughts and ideas, constructionism, where students learn by making, and andragogy, which explains how adult learners process information differently than traditional students. In the theory of situated learning, Lav and Wagner tell us that situated learning occurs within authentic, real-world contexts. Knowledge is connected to people, their history, culture, and physical objects in a society. Thus, learning is a social process in which one needs to interact with others in a community of practice. In constructionism, Seymour Papert argues learning is the active process of knowledge construction, i.e., one learns by making. Digital technologies go hand in hand with constructionism, providing 21st century learners the tools to create their artifacts. Theories are manifested in diverse educational contexts by culturally responsive practices and teaching strategies that respect the cultural and linguistic diversity of learner populations. In particular, considering the needs of racial, ethnic, and language minority groups and ensuring their funds of knowledge are integrated into the classroom. This is important for addressing academic issues such as the achievement gap. Culturally responsive practices ensure opportunities for all students, including those with disabilities, to learn alongside their non-disabled peers in general educational classrooms in the least restrictive environment possible. Applications of key foundational theories meet the needs of diverse learners by ensuring students who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queers are fully able to participate without harassment at schools by creating an environment inclusive to the needs of any learner. As a future teacher, I must ensure everyone feels safe and welcome in the classroom and take swift action if bullying occurs and ensure the offender is held accountable. This is vital to LGBT youth as they are 2 to 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. In order to implement the main themes of this course into my classroom, professional and personal life, I will design my curriculum for inclusiveness, recognizing that each student is different and brings different funds of knowledge with them to their classroom. Diversity will be celebrated and students will be encouraged to share their thoughts on how their culture impacts what we are studying. For example, a student may come from a country where the metric system is utilized, which could facilitate a discussion on why the US continues to use an arbitrary system of measurement. In addition to the mandated courses in this degree program, I will be taking a course in Mexican American Studies and Spanish language courses as well to enhance my understanding of and ability to communicate with predominantly Spanish-speaking families in our community. In my personal life, I will celebrate the funds of knowledge my Filipina daughters bring with them to the U.S. and ensure they are given every opportunity to live their dreams and feel welcomed, accepted, and integrated into our schools and society by my becoming an active part of the school district and the community. Thank you for listening to my digital story. I wish you success in your educational career.
Don't you give up, nah, nah, nah. I won't give up, nah, nah, nah. Let me love you, let me love you. Don't you give up, nah, nah, nah. I won't give up, nah, nah, nah. Let me love you. Listen to my